All right, we're here with Maximilian Mueller, CFO of Deposit Solutions. First question for you. What big problem does your product solve?
So there's a gap in the market between banks that are looking for stable funding and banks that could provide stable funding, but there's currently no transmission mechanism between the two. And we close this gap by offering banks a platform where the banks that are looking for stable funding can offer overnight and fixed-term deposit products. We call these banks product banks. And then banks that have surplus deposits, they can then market these deposits to their clients. Therefore, we call them client banks. And the imbalance between the two usually stems from different business models. So essentially, every bank is an ideal customer for us. Every bank is either a client bank or a product bank. And on the product bank side, these are the banks that are looking for funding. You could have a bank that doesn't have deposit infrastructure at all, and by linking to the platform, they can now add a completely new funding source because we deliver all the infrastructure that they need. This could, for instance, be a pure lender like an auto bank or a mortgage bank. And then you have banks that want to increase their depositor pool, so they have their regional depositor pool, and all of a sudden, by linking to the platform, they can instantaneously reach 20 million depositors. Through that, they can lower their funding costs, or at the same interest rate, simply get more funding, or do a mixture of both. And then 3, you have banks that simply want to diversify their funding portfolio and thereby manage their risk better. And on the client bank side, you usually have banks that have deposit infrastructure and have surplus deposits. And these banks, can now, through the platform, offer their client a much better customer experience. So they can offer now choice and transparency in one of the most important banking categories. So this could be a client bank that wants to retain their customers or also gain new customers by offering best-in-class products, and these would be the products from the product banks. And then you have banks that want to regain deposits that their clients, for instance, put to other banks because they had higher interest rates. And now it doesn't make sense for these depositors anymore to go somewhere else because in their home bank account, they get all the different deposits. And therefore, it makes total sense for them to bank everything through their home bank. And then 3, you might just have banks that want to gain another revenue source because we pay them for the funds that they provide through the platform. We have 120 professionals working for us. And what I think is really interesting that we have people from all over the world coming together. So now we have 40 different nationalities to work on the same issue. Most of them sit in Hamburg, but we have representations in all major financial European hubs. So I think what motivates every one of us is our shared vision to transform the deposit market to the benefit of people, healthy banks, and the society at large. So take a saver that can now, from their home bank account, all of a sudden get a higher interest rate. That means that, for instance, they could have a higher retirement savings. And for banks, they can now get the funding that they need, and we help them apply their resources better. So we're supporting the vital banking industry. And then last, by giving banks the funding that they need, they can lend more to corporates and individuals, and that means more economic activity. And so I really think that this mutual vision of all of our people is what drives them to work so hard every day. So the deposit market in Europe alone is over 10 trillion euros. So that obviously gives lots of room for growth. And we have transferred the first billion within 13 months after launch, and the second already in 7. And this is only through our B2C product Zinspilot. That means interest rate navigator in English. And this is one of the client banks on our platform. And by recently adding client banks like Deutsche Bank or FFB, a Fidelity daughter, we increased our reach of depositors from over 50,000 to 20 million. And that gives us a deposit reach of over €1 trillion on the platform already now. So as you can see, we didn't only have high growth in the past, but we already laid the foundation for high growth in the future.